Ekse, welcome to the first episode of ChatsWithJele. As today's episode is just gonna be a small brief and a background of how the podcast is gonna work. So without wasting any time, the first point goes as follows: introduction of the podcast and what inspired the podcast. So I was part of a clothing brand, a very popular clothing brand in 013, very known and popular clothing brand in 013, which I wouldn't love to disclose. But then, if you know, you know. I was part of that clothing brand. Things were fine when you started, and then as time went by, things started being shady, and then me and the founder had some issues. So after having that issues, I decided to leave, and that's because I saw Guti. The more I stay here, the more my reputation and my name will get ruined. And then after the clothing brand, I think 2021, I started my own brand, which I will also won't disclose, since till today, a lot of people don't know or aren't aware that I was the founder of that particular brand. But then started my brand, and then things were fine when it all started. But then as time went by, I saw there's actually a lot of competition around the clothing industry. And besides competition, I didn't want to see myself in the clothing industry because of what happened between me and that particular brand. It just gave me flashbacks, if I can say that. So I didn't want to be in the clothing industry again because of those reasons. So I then ended up closing the brand. I didn't go any further, but then there is merch around. There is people that have the merch, which was the ambassadors that I chose. So I never continued with the brand because of I saw competition, and I never continued with the brand because I just had flashbacks of what happened between me and that brand. As I said, as I invested a lot of money in that brand and time and love, so when things started going south, I was really heartbroken. And funny how my family were warning me about all of this, but because I saw light, I saw, I had hope, I had faith in all of this, I carried my big head and I continued with the brand. But then no regrets. That's how we all learn. So continuing with the story, part of that brand, I left the brand, I started my own, it failed. And then after that, I was just supporting each and every brand around 013. I'm a big supporter of local brands, by the way. And then as I was supporting, keep in mind I'm a big fan of Ghost Luby. So as I was watching Ghost Luby, I realized that I actually wanted a YouTube channel. One day I would love to have one. By that I mean the pranks, the vlogging and all of that. That's what I actually wanted to do. So I feel like the reason I never started a YouTube channel, I lacked motivation, and I lacked people that can be like behind my back to motivate me to start one. I never had enough motivation to start a YouTube channel, and I also felt like the work is gonna be too much for me. The eyes are just gonna be too much for me, But then I never started a YouTube channel because honestly the reason is I feel like I lacked motivation. I really didn't have that much motivation to start one. I didn't have that I wasn't eager enough to start a YouTube channel. So it's part of a clothing brand, started my own YouTube channel. So keep in mind, all these years, this is me trying to figure out what I want to do, what industry I want to be in. So clothing industry failed, YouTube thing failed, and then one of my friends introduced me to Tato Rampedi. Um, Tato Rampedi is a YouTuber, also a podcaster. Shout out to Tato Rampedi, by the way, even though he won't see the podcast, but shout out to him, man. So my friends introduced me to Tato, and then I've listened to his podcast, I've watched his podcast, and keep in mind, I've been watching Ghost Luby for the longest time, but then I still wasn't motivated enough to start a YouTube channel. So I listened to Tato, I've watched Tato, and then me listening and watching Tato every day, I saw Guti, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to try next. I've tried a lot of things and they failed, but this is what I want to do next. So keep in mind, I've only watched Tato probably for 2 months or a month. First month of me watching Tato, I purchased my first equipment. Then I saw Wutina, I'm really doing this. I'm really doing this. Second month, I purchased my second set of equipment, and then fear started kicking in with no man. Do I really want to do this? Will I be good in this? I even thought of giving up and selling the equipment that I had, but I never did that. And then third month, I purchased my third equipment. That's where I saw Woodsie, no, I'm really doing this. I'm really doing this. With the fear or without the fear, I'm really doing this. Before my friend introducing me to Tato, I also wanted to go into events. The events part, just to touch on it. So I've been knocking on every door in 013, like via the event industry. So I've knocked on every door, nobody really answered, but there were people or a person that actually answered me, which was the founder of Last Supper movement. Shout out to Last Supper, by the way. And the reason I didn't take the offer isn't something bad, but then after having a conversation with the founder of Last Supper, he told me, Wuti, the Last Supper is a community. Like, there's a lot of people which play a role in Last Supper. So I felt like, will me being part of Last Supper bring any change in my life? Will me being part of Last Supper, will what I say be heard? Will what I do be seen? Since I'm not really a people's person, so me being part of a huge group like Last Supper, will I fit in? So that's the reason I never took the offer of Last Supper. The offer was great, not gonna lie, but then I felt like I needed to start something of my own, something that I'll have full control of, something that what I say will be heard, something that what I do will be seen. But then besides, shout out to Last Supper, man. Like, no bad vibes, nothing. So it was clothing, part of that clothing brand, then my own clothing, then it was YouTube, then it was the events part, and then it's the podcasting. So my friend introduced me to Tato, as I said, and then I really saw Guti, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to try next. And keep in mind, this is me every year trying to do something new, and all these years everything failed, and today here I am doing podcasting. And I'm not an entertainer, guys, I'm not gonna lie, I'm really not an entertainer. Never saw myself in the entertainment industry, as I am a shy person, I'm an introvert. So this is me just trying new things, this is me trying to have fun. That's the story. I don't know if it makes sense, but then hopefully it makes sense. So To answer that again, what inspired the podcast or who inspired the podcast? I would say Tato inspired me. Uh, as I was listening to Tato, I was watching to Tato, and I was watching Tato. Sorry, and then I ended up seeing myself buying equipment for the podcast. I ended up seeing myself, yeah, I am because of Tato. So yeah, big shout out to Tato again. As I said, even though he won't see the podcast, but big shout out to Tato for being an inspiration to some of us. Um, yeah, moving on to the second bullet. Do I see any competition around my area? Honestly speaking, guys, via the podcasting industry, I see no competition. uh I have my own reasons which I won't state on the podcast. But then besides that, I'm not here for competition. I'm here to have fun. I'm here to grow the culture of 013. You know, I'm here to give everyone a platform to shine. I'm here to do my work. Like, I'm not here for any competition. I am my own competition. So if you feel like, as I start this podcast, you feel like I'm a threat to you, then that's gonna be a problem, because I'm not really here for that. I'm just here to have fun. I'm here to do my thing. I'm here to grow. Yeah, so to answer that question, I see no competition around my area. Not to be cocky or anything, but I really don't see any competition around my area. And then bullet number 3. Um, Did you do this podcast because of the money? If not, what is your main purpose of your podcast? For those that follow the podcast page on Instagram, on the bio it says the aim is to grow 013's culture. And by that I mean it. Sorry. The podcast might have my name on ChatsWithJele, but then the podcast is for everyone in 013. It's for everyone that feels like they're not recognized. It's for everyone that feels like they don't really have a platform to showcase their work. So this podcast, I did it because I want everyone to be seen. As you guys have probably seen on the podcast stories, I've been trying to promote people. I've been trying to promote people's craft, even though it might not reach a lot of people right now, but as time goes by, hopefully it will reach a lot of people and everyone will get recognized. But via 013, I swear everyone is gonna get recognized, everyone is gonna get known, everyone is gonna shine. So my other aim is, besides knowing a person because you saw them at Groove or you saw them at the mall, know a person because of what they do. Know a person of the craft they do. Know a person because of what they're good at. And even if you in need of something, in need of an artist, someone that draws, you can just go through the podcast page and you can see. I'll make sure that I get different type of artists on the page. That I want, if you need something, if you need certain artist, just go through the podcast page and you see what. Okay, no, guys, let's take that one. That's what I'm trying to do. Know a person because of what they do, instead of just booking a person because you know them, or know a person because you saw them somewhere. Know a person because you know the craft they're good at. So that's my aim. I'm not here for the money. The bag can wait. I've already spent. If I was here for the money, I wouldn't have spent so much money. I've already spent so much money to start this. So that shows that I'm really not here for the money as of yet. But then as time goes, obviously maybe I'll start earning those few cents from YouTube. But then I'm not here for the money. I'm here to grow 013's culture. I'm here to give everyone in 013 a platform to shine. The aim is just to grow the culture of 013, as there is a lot of talent in 013. Yeah, to continue, as I'm just trying to keep this episode as short as possible, and then give a shout out to everyone that had your back since day one, people that had my back since this was all just a dream. Honestly, number one, guys, big shout out to God. If it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be doing this podcast. So big shout out to God, and big shout out to my family, everyone, from my mother to my uncles. And then a big shout out to my sister, one of my number one supporter. Big shout out to my Han. And then a big shout out to my Grotman Toya, Dr. Toya. He was one of the people that motivated me via the entertainment industry, even though by that time he wasn't aware of what I'm gonna do, of what I actually want to do, or what I want to start. But he gave me some motivation about the entertainment industry, how tough it is and all of that. So big shout out to my Grotman, man. And then big shout out to also my other Grotman, Twax from Bang Entertainment. Big shout out to Twax. Twax was there when I needed him. Chilled guy. It's only a few months. We don't really talk that much, but when I need something, or I need something that has to do with the podcast, I ask Twax, and yeah, we just cool. We cool, and I never thought someday I'd have such a relationship with Twax. But big shout out to Twax from Bang Entertainment, my frontman Twax from Bang Entertainment. Big shout out to everyone that subscribed. Big shout out to everyone that followed the podcast channel. And then the last bullet, give a small brief on how the podcast is gonna work. Okay, so hopefully I get to get a guest on each and every episode. Hopefully I get to get a guest, and then during that episode, we're gonna have a topic for the day, or we're gonna be interviewing that certain guest. If that guest is a dancer or a singer, we're gonna be interviewing that person. And then we're gonna be interviewing that person. And then we're gonna have a thing called shout out for the day, where I'm gonna be giving a shout out to anyone that's doing their work out there. Same thing that I was doing on the podcast page, but now it's gonna be on the video. So I'm gonna be verbally giving a shout out to those people. And then if I have a guest, I'm hoping to use the guest, use a song as an outro, which will be the guest's favorite song. So yeah, that's how the podcast is gonna work. Some things might just develop as time goes by, but that's what I have planned. And then this, as I said, this is not the episode that you guys have been waiting for, but then episode 2 is that's where the fun is gonna begin. That's where we're gonna be rocking. But then big shout out to everyone that subscribed to the YouTube channel. Big shout out to everyone that followed the podcast channel. The love is mad, guys. I really didn't think I'd reach 100 followers on Instagram, and I really didn't think I'd reach 60 subscribers. So big shout out to everyone that subscribed. Big shout out to everyone that followed the podcast channel. Let's grow together, guys. As I say, this podcast is for everyone. It's not just for me, but it's for everyone in 013. So let's meet again, episode 2, where if the fun is gonna begin, where the episode you guys have been waiting for. It's gonna be episode 2. So yeah, thanks for watching. We will meet episode 2.